Walking into the law office, I immediately sensed something wasn't right. The air was tense like before a storm. I sat at the long mahogany table, my hands clenching in my lap. My father's will was about to be read, and while our relationship had its complexities, I attended out of respect. Across from me, my cousin Derek reclined as if he had hit the jackpot. His attire, a tailored suit, a gleaming watch, and polished shoes, contrasted sharply with his usual fashion. Derek never had such money, at least not until now. Mr. Grant, our lawyer, cleared his throat. "Thank you for coming. As you're aware, Mr. Porter's passing has left his estate to be divided per his wishes. Any questions before we start?" While I remained silent, Derek smirked confidently. "No questions, let's just get on with it." My suspicion grew stronger. Mr. Grant began outlining the will. My father had left substantial wealth, properties, and assets for Derek and me. However, Derek's incessant smiling made me uneasy. The unsettling revelation came next. The inheritance, held in trust, had been distributed to Derek 6 months prior to my father's passing as Derek had requested. My heart sank. "Oh man, I was wondering when you'd find out." Derek laughed, wiping a fake tear. "I've already spent it, so good luck getting anything." His words made my blood turn cold. Unperturbed, Mr. Grant smirked slightly, retrieving a folder from his briefcase. Sliding it toward Derek, he spoke calmly, "Perhaps you should read this first." Derek's face fell as he turned the pages, his color draining. "What is this?" he stammered. "That, Mr. Derek, is what we call a trap," Mr. Grant stated smoothly. I watched as Derek's self-assured demeanor crumbled. His hands trembled, leafing through the documents. "This can't be real," he mumbled. "Oh, it's very real," Mr. Grant confirmed, leaning back. "You see, Mr. Porter was aware you might try to manipulate him, so he devised something clever." My curiosity piqued. Turning to me with a slight smile, Mr. Grant explained, "Your father anticipated Derek's early attempts on his money. Therefore, he created a dummy inheritance, a false trust with stipulations Derek didn't bother reading. This trust wasn't part of the actual will. It was a test." I was taken aback. "A test?" Derek began shaking irrepressibly, and oblivious to Derek's condition, Mr. Grant continued, "Yes, your father wanted to see if Derek would fall into the trap he laid out." A cold satisfaction spread across my face as I realized the truth about the inheritance. "So, you're implying that the money Derek seized wasn't part of the actual estate?" I inquired. Mr. Grant nodded in confirmation. Suddenly, Derek jumped up, his fists clenched tightly. "You're lying. I've already spent it all on houses and cars. I invested everything." Mr. Grant remained unruffled as he pushed another document towards Derek. "In fact, that's a court order to freeze any remaining assets tied to the misappropriated trust." At a loss for words, Derek fell silent, eventually uttering an anguished scream. Witnessing his swift unraveling was surreal. Derek started pacing frantically, his fingers combing through his hair. "This can't be happening," he muttered repeatedly. With an exasperated sigh, Mr. Grant confirmed, "Oh, but it is happening, and it gets more severe." Derek's attention snapped back to him, alarmed. "Worse?" Mr. Grant flipped to the next page, pointing decisively with his pen. "Your father foresaw you'd squander the money and left explicit instructions. You're now legally accountable for reimbursing every penny you took." Breathless, Derek slumped into his chair. "I can't do it. There's nothing left." Mr. Grant's gaze was unyielding. "That's unfortunate, as the law firm is fully prepared to pursue every avenue. Your father ensured there would be consequences." Defiant, Derek gritted his teeth. "You can't draw blood from a stone." Raising an eyebrow, Mr. Grant responded coolly, "When the stone has committed fraud, you certainly can." My father's meticulous setup caused Derek to fall into his trap. Derek had conned my father into releasing the funds prematurely, but it was all a magnificent ploy, as now every cent had to be returned. From my vantage point, I didn't need to intervene at all. Derek's downfall was entirely self-inflicted. "I own a house, a car," Derek desperately argued, but Mr. Grant simply raised a hand to halt him. Not anymore. Derek froze solid, comprehension dawning as Mr. Grant's smile conveyed the irrevocable. All assets acquired with that money will be sold to settle the debt. Not a dime will be yours. In this moment of utter defeat, Derek's hands shook while grappling with the grim reality. Meanwhile, relishing the scene, I sat watching Derek's world come crashing down in real time, his face ashen and his breathing irregular. He was a man who believed he'd won, only to realize he was the butt of the harshest joke imaginable. The most satisfying twist? He'd orchestrated his own downfall. Mr. Grant began collecting his documents, unfazed by the chaos unraveling across the table. You may, of course, consult your own legal team with these, he offered, though added promptly, I recommend against stalling. The court orders are already in motion. Derek's eyes darted frantically, resembling a cornered prey. No. This is fraud. He jabbed an accusing finger in my direction. He's setting me up. This can't be happening. A chuckle escaped me. But it is real. Derek shot to his feet, his chair nearly toppling. I'll fight this. I'll sue. This is a scam. You can't just take my money. Mr. Grant regarded him wearily. It was never your money, Mr. Derek. It was a trust you embezzled from your own uncle. Now, the repercussions must be faced. Although I expected an explosive reaction from Derek, maybe flipping the table or shouting, his response was a genuine shock. Surprise, he smiled instead. A crooked smile spread across his face. You really think I'm just going to let this slide? He whispered. You believe I don't have alternatives? I stiffened, watching as Mr. Grant remained calm, though his fingers gripped the briefcase a bit more firmly. Derek leaned in, lowering his voice. Let me spell it out. Call this off, and I guarantee nothing bad will transpire. A pause ensued before Mr. Grant exhaled, expressing indifference. Threats. He shook his head, unimpressed. It's always the last resort for a man with no options. Derek's grin disappeared. Mr. Grant gave him a serious look. I recommend you rethink your position, Mr. Derek, because if you believe you're in a bind now, just wait until legal matters ensue. Derek retreated back into his seat, face contorted with anger. That's when Mr. Grant directed his attention to me. There's one more issue, he added. The second trap. Derek groaned, collapsing into his chair. Oh, what now? What else can you possibly take from me? Without a response, Mr. Grant produced another folder, offering it to me. This, he stated, is something your father intended for you to receive personally. Perplexed, I asked, what is it? Opening the folder, the first page took my breath away. It was clear evidence. Bank statements, forged signatures, years of embezzlement, all involving Derek's name. Shocked, I looked up. This is, yes, Mr. Grant confirmed. This isn't merely about the trust or wasted funds over the past 6 months. For years, Derek has been stealing from your father. Derek's breathing became labored, his foot tapping nervously beneath the table. Through gritted teeth, he accused, You're lying. No, I replied, skimming through the documents. You are. There were loan applications under my father's identity, illicit account withdrawals, even a forged property sale. Derek was more than just greedy. He was a criminal. Mr. Grant turned towards him. Your uncle refrained from pressing charges during his lifetime, but upon his passing, we are to proceed legally. Derek looked as if he might collapse. Shutting the folder, my mind raced. What happens now? Mr. Grant exhaled. Well, that depends. He turned to Derek. If you cooperate, we might settle this civilly, but resist, and we will relentlessly pursue full legal actions, including criminal proceedings. Derek's mouth opened, then shut, caged by his circumstances. I anticipated it to be over, yet Derek did something unexpected, a planned escape. 3 days later, he vanished without a trace, no calls or emails, not a single sign. Initially, I assumed he was merely hiding, attempting to postpone the inevitable. Then Mr. Grant called. We have a complication, he disclosed. My heart sank. What kind? The kind involving fake passports and fleeing attempts, he elucidated. I became alert. You're joking. Mr. Grant sighed. Sadly, no. Derek purchased a one-way ticket to Argentina. He's attempting to abscond. A fury simmered within my chest. Oh, hell no. Did he succeed? A brief silence followed, then a chuckle from Mr. Grant. No. He was apprehended at the airport. My laughter nearly toppled me from my chair. The final act of retribution. Derek was arrested at the airport with a fraudulent passport, a suitcase stuffed with cash, and a very costly watch, which he failed to recall was no longer technically his. It turns out that fabricating your identity while under ongoing investigation for financial misdeeds is a surefire method to land in jail instantly. Just like that, Derek transitioned from a smirking, arrogant swindler to a desired fugitive without an escape route. The court confiscated everything: the residence, the vehicles, the bank accounts. Even his personal effects were sold off to settle his liabilities. As for me, I ended up with precisely what my father intended for me: everything. Epilogue. Derek didn't concede quietly. He spent months attempting to challenge the case, yet there was overwhelming evidence, endless paper trails, numerous forged endorsements, too many blunders. Ultimately, the law performed its duty, catching up to Derek. He was deemed guilty of several counts of fraud, theft, and attempted identity fraud, resulting in a 15-year sentence. I visited him once, merely once. He seemed altered, slimmer, paler. The pride was gone, substituted by something empty and shattered. "Are you happy?" he sneered through the glass. I pondered it for a moment, then grinned. Yes, and I walked away. Post Derek's conviction, I believed it was concluded. I had succeeded. I inherited my father's estate, his wealth, his enterprise. Derek languished in prison, stripped of all possessions. I thought I was finally rid of him. Or so I believed. The letter. Half a year following Derek's sentencing, I received a letter, not an electronic one, but an actual handwritten note. It was from Derek. I nearly discarded it, but curiosity overpowered me. The note was brief, and it terrified me. "You think this is over? I have allies. You stripped everything from me. Now I'm claiming something from you." No signature, just that one chilling line. I read it twice, my heart racing. This wasn't merely anger. It was an intimidation. That night, I barricaded all my doors. The first attack. Initially, nothing transpired. Weeks elapsed, then months. I began to suspect he was merely bluffing until the break-in. It occurred at 3 a.m. My security system screamed awake, sending me into a frenzy. Someone attempted to invade. By the time law enforcement arrived, the intruder had vanished, leaving behind a solitary playing card joker affixed to my front door. Derek's shadow. I immediately consulted Mr. Grant. "This can't be possible," I exclaimed, pacing across his office. "He's in prison." Mr. Grant nodded, appearing troubled. "He is, but that doesn't mean he's impotent." Derek had networks, petty criminals, dubious business partners, individuals who owed him favors. And now they were after me. That's when I resolved if Derek desired a conflict, I'd give him one. The counterattack. I enlisted a private detective. If Derek had operatives on the outside, I needed to identify them. The PI, a fellow named Henderson, was efficient. 2 weeks later, he returned with identities. Derek had 3 pivotal contacts still managing his illicit activities. Victor Cole, an ex-accountant who assisted him in laundering purloined funds. Ray Bones Martinez, an enforcer, aggressive, an individual you wouldn't wish banging at your entrance. Samantha Price, a former lover, intelligent, perilous, the authentic mastermind behind Derek's last-minute schemes. Henderson reclined in his seat. These individuals, they aren't easily intimidated, and they don't retreat. I gritted my teeth. Neither do I. The trap. I comprehended I needed to emulate my father. To ensnare Derek, I set a careful plan in motion. I pretended to be on the verge of transferring all of the estate's liquid assets into one vulnerable account. It was a ruse, but I ensured that the right ears heard of it. Sure enough, 3 days later, Samantha Price walked into my bank. With counterfeit documents in hand, she attempted to withdraw funds. Unknown to her, the account was already flagged, with the bank manager collaborating with law enforcement. As soon as she presented the falsified papers, Alarms blared, and she was apprehended instantly. The chain reaction began. Facing numerous felony charges, Samantha quickly turned on her accomplices. Victor Cole was nabbed for fraud and tax evasion, while Ray Bones Martinez was caught with illegal arms and outstanding warrants. The icing on the cake was Derek, masterminding everything from within prison using a smuggled cell phone. When investigators combed his cell, they found written plans targeting my assets, home, and even my family. This discovery sealed his fate. Derek's initial 15-year sentence was extended to 35 years without parole. I didn't visit him this time, but penned a terse letter. Checkmate. Though he never replied, I knew he would read it, understanding that I had dismantled his operation completely. Derek's scheme crumbled. His cohorts either faced justice or betrayed him. His extended sentence ensured he'd spend the remainder of his years confined. While I should have felt a sense of relief, my mission wasn't over. Despite everything, Derek attempted one last gambit from behind bars. He hired a notorious, expensive lawyer specializing in getting criminals acquitted. Desperate, with nothing left to gamble, Derek's lawyer contacted me, demanding a settlement from the man who had stolen from my family and nearly ruined me. I laughed at the irony, then got to work. I engaged the finest attorney available and countersued for damages and emotional stress, seeking every cent he had attempted to seize. The proceedings were swift. The judge, upon reviewing Derek's past, promptly dismissed his suit and ruled in favor of my counterclaim. It was declared that all of Derek's remaining assets, earnings from prison work, and any potential future income would be mine. He would, essentially, be working for me. I sent him a final letter, straightforward in its message. Now you work for me. Enjoy the next 35 years. There were no taunts, only the stark reality. I received no answer, but I envisioned Derek in his sparse prison cell, pondering those words, realizing his defeat. Ultimately, Derek's belief in money equating to power had crumbled. The law and justice prevailed. I ensured he paid the price for his avarice, while, for the first time, I felt truly liberated. Derek, meanwhile, was right where he belonged, stripped of his power and influence.